All right, me and my boy Geico are debating which is a better fight: the fucking Kid Buu conflict, as he likes to call it, versus the basically all of the Black Bulls and some help versus Vetto. Um,
Yeah.
so Geico, I wanted to frame this debate by excluding these topics from discussion. Um, we can discuss whether these are fine. Um, Fight choreography,
Yeah, I
uh,
don't. Yeah, we don't need
popular
that.
popularity of fights,
hmm
and animation.
Animation, yeah, sure. Also, like, can we like also exclude the fights being dragged on? Because
Oh, the pacing, yeah. Let's not.
yeah,
I feel
okay,
like that's a very Veto Fight
anti feet.
leans topic. Anti feet.
No, never mind.
Okay.
I was trying to guess at what you were gonna say next.
So I'm assuming this is gonna be a very meta narrative based debate.
Mm, Perhaps.
All right, then just let me hear your opening statement.
All right. So overall, I think the Kid Buu fight was pretty much like it was a lot more hype. Like there's a lot more suspense and hype backing it up. Like overall, I just think it's a lot more intense, and because of that, I think it's a better fight in comparison to the Vita fight.
Okay. So my opening statement is the meta narrative and the influence on characters of Veto versus the Black Bulls is much more impactful than Kid Buu's fight with the Z
Okay.
Fighters. What do we want
All
to
right.
start? Do we want to start on hype?
Yeah, like the hype, intensity, etc., etc. I think that would be a lot more, I guess, basic to,
Explain.
I guess, dissect, analyze, explain. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to
All right.
hear your argument for Kid Buu being like hyped the fuck up.
I guess there are multiple points that we're going to need to like go over. Like obviously, it's like the first point is how likely the good guys are to beat the villain, and like the second point would be despair. Like
Oh,
just when you think the hero is about to like win, like the villain just pulls out his I guess ultimate power amp
you really
in the
trying to
middle of the
argue
fight.
dis? You trying to argue despair against Veto?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then I guess the third point would be like how one sided the fight was. Like was the fight even? Was the fight one sided, etc., etc. Um
Okay, so let's go into like the first point of hype, which is
mhm.
like
Hope,
I
I
think
guess.
I think Veto um it was just I have a point on hype for Veto too because I kind of
Um
predicted that.
okay.
It's just like all of the Black Bulls are like scattered within like this water palace place, and it's like everyone's sensing, and they're like, "Oh, what's this fucking immeasurable mana? This guy's stronger than Captain Yami," and just like there are all these statements just like hyping the shit out of Veto.
hmm Okay.
Oh my god!
Um
And then basically to top off that, I'm gonna argue this is like a point of hype. We have these like two really strong characters that were introduced within the arc, and then he just like they're doing their strongest combo magic, and he just like takes one of their legs off, and then just like fucking karate chops the other one in the throat and rips out her vocal cords.
Rips it out. I don't recall
I
that.
don't know if it was ripping it out, but he just breaks her fucking vocal cords. And
Sure. I
I think
recall him
it's
like giving her a nice jab to the throat.
yeah, and then he like has her hanging by the hair on some kinky shit. But
Well, I guess when arguing for Kid Buu, I kind of have to mix hope and despair together because like it's like you have one layer of hope and then you go back to despair and it's just back and forth with Kid Buu. Like at the start of the fight, you have like Vegeta wanking Goku saying how he's like basically more powerful than ever. And then despite like Goku fighting him at full power, like Buu just tanks all of his attacks. And after like being knocked out, he comes back and fights Kid Buu for a little bit, I believe. And then you have like Vegeta stalling for time. But it turns out that, like that whole quote unquote minute that he spent stalling for time for like Goku to gain back his overall strength it was just wasted immediately because he faints. And then after, like at that point, you're kind of like, what the fuck are they gonna do to combat Boo? And then Goku comes up with the bright idea of creating the Spirit Bomb. So now Goku has a method to defeat Kid Buu with. And then Kid Buu, like as he's about to launch the Spirit Bomb at Kid Buu, he kind of just tanks it. He starts pushing Goku back. He even takes Vegeta as hostage. Actually, wait, no, that was before. No, all right, so first you had Kid Buu take Vegeta hostage.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
don't know how the Kid Buu fight goes. I didn't actually quit Dragon Ball like halfway through the Buu arc. I just found it uninteresting.
I mean, fair enough. Like nowadays, I can't really enjoy it either. But um, where the fuck was I? All right, so after he like charges up the Spirit Bomb, he takes Vegeta hostage. And then like Fat Boo comes by and like he saves Vegeta and like Hercule grabs him. And then after Kid Buu knocks the shit out of Fat Boo, Goku finally has the opportunity to hammer him with a solid Spirit Bomb, to which, to everyone's surprise, Kid Buu like literally starts pushing the Spirit Bomb back. And now, as like Kid Boo's about to kill Goku using the Spirit Bomb, the Namekians, like these random side characters, have a viable role within the own, like within the fight, and they basically ask Purunga to, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, heal Goku. He regains his strength, goes Super Saiyan, and one shots. Boom,
Is that
ending the
really
con.
the fight? Okay.
Yeah, like it's basically the fight. It dumbed it down.
So I would
Uh,
argue that while there isn't as much cuz I'm fine with that, right? I'm
mhm.
fine with the like mixtures and tension in this fight. I would argue that there was an equal amount of mixture and tension in the Vetto fight, but
Huh?
like it was more tense. Like there was despair and hope cuz I guess this is more a meta narrative argument that I have plotted out. But like
Okay.
Vetto is despair itself. Like each member of the Midnight Eye, except for Liar, because he's weird, is like something incarnate. Like Fauna was hate and Vetto is despair.
Isn't liar just liar, or like does he not lie?
He does lie, but like it's like they all have these concepts, and it's just weird that he doesn't have one. He's just Liar.
Okay.
Um,
Doesn't he have like a transformation ability?
Vetto.
Yeah.
Vetto
Not Veto.
has
The liar guy.
I don't know.
Okay, never mind then.
Um, but anyways, he has like a magic copying ability. He has like touch a grimoire.
Uh,
It's like very reminiscent of Crollo's ability, but
mhm.
basically, it's like every time they either are doing something really well or you think Veto's gonna win, the tides change. Like right
Mhm.
before Veto just like kills the Black Bulls, Vanessa shows up, right? And
Yeah.
after Veto, like whenever you think Veto's about to get taken out by Magna and Luck, Veto just tanks it. Or whenever Asta shows up, because like Veta and Luck are or Magna and Luck are on the ground. Um, Asta's like doing awfully, and then he's about to get killed. He gets his arm broken. He's about to get killed, and then Noel and Kahono show up, and it's like we have this consistent like change in tension constantly, and then
Uh-huh.
whenever, and then I would even say it's even better because we have these cliffs where like Noelle uses all of her magic in Sea Dragon's Roar, right? And we
Mhm.
think that Veto is just down for the count. Veto even remarks, "What? What is this power? Nandate?" It's like this really weird moment, and then he's like, "Oh, I can fucking tank this shit," and so he tries to go against it, and you're like, "Oh, Veto's about to take this shit out,"
Mhm.
but then he just gets his arm blown off, and you're like, "Oh, Veto's dead." But then he awakens his third eye transformation, and it's like we have
His
these
final.
that wasn't even his final form. That's the worst
I
part. His final form was like the self destruction bomb.
see.
But then it's like Veto's. You think the Black Bulls have taken out Veto again because like Asta goes through this whole. He's like, I forget what it is. Quit, like give up on me giving up, and like you think he takes out Veto, but then Veto starts to self destruct, and they're like, oh shit, nobody has mana. What do we do? And so you think the Black Bulls are about to get taken out by the suicide bomb, but then what happens? Yami shows up because Yami surpasses limits. And so I would just argue that the hype and tension are like equal on both fights, maybe with the Vetto fight edging out.
There's
I would say
I'd say there's
it's just a larger roller coaster in
yeah.
Vetto's favor.
I don't actually agree. I think there's an element mixed together of like I guess hype and intensity that would put the Dragon Ball fight over Black Clover, because it's like, well, I guess both fights have it where the villains like you have it. Well, first you start off with like the heroes badass, like you think you're gonna body the shadow villain, and then the villain just smacks them. Like I think Dragon Ball just executes it a lot better because, like, in the case of like, I guess Black Clover, it's really quick. It's done like it's I guess it's kind of like quick shot. You think the villain's about to smack, but then instantly that problem is countered by the heroes and vice versa.
I would
Whereas
more
with
so
like,
say it's like a chapter of each. Because I
um,
reread the fight myself to prepare for this debate. And
I
it's very much so like the heroes are winning for a chapter, Veto's
mhm.
getting bodied for a chapter, and then it's like, oh, Veto powers up again, or Veto's like tanks some shit.
Okay, let's just go over like I guess layer by layer. Like, what's the first layer in which he thought the heroes were gonna do well, or did it start off in the villain's favor?
It started off in Veto's favor, extremely so.
Was it the Asta and like Sword Guy
No, I would say it starts off with like
Magna?
they build Veto before he ever arrives, right? They like hint
Mm-hmm.
that something's coming, and like Fuehe, you know, fucking weird guy who always laughs weird. The one
Shit,
from
I don't.
the one from the entrance exam that Asta bodied in one shot.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, the one who laughs funny exactly. Um, so like Fuehe is like it starts with Fuehe in like chapter 63 being like, this guy's he's not human. He's like pissing himself
Okay.
to like hype up Veto. And then
Well,
we
can
get
I
like
just?
yeah.
Sorry,
I was
sorry to
just
cut you.
starting with like the first layer.
I actually I just remember the layer of like I guess intensity or I guess hype that Kid Buu had that would be parallel to what the laughing guy had. Even before like Kid Buu had his like I guess real fight with Goku, like the second he appeared, he had the Supreme Kai just hyping him up to be the strongest Buu. After they had to fuse just to combat Buhan. So I guess like the Kid Buu conflict would have like its own parallel with that. But
Yeah, yeah.
go on.
So I wasn't totally finished with that. I was just starting off, right?
Mhm.
I'm trying to find the exact point at which Veto arrives, because I want to make sure that there isn't more to it than that. I just read the Veto's volume, um, and a little bit after, because there is stuff that happens after this fight, right?
Mhm.
Um, so we get like a panel of like a very well drawn Veto, and he's like, "Come on, let us play two," and then we get a
Um,
flashback to Fuehe, and he's like, "Oh my god, this guy's fucking a monster." And then we see it pans back to Magna and Luck versus Veto, like before the fight starts, and it's
okay.
like, he seems hardcore. Um, he crushed the enemy we were having a hard time with. This guy's magic power is greater than Captain Yami's,
Hmm.
and it's like there are just these consistent statements before Veto ever really does anything of like he's the strongest enemy we've ever faced. And the tension is like super high because Yami, once he sees Veto like storm the battlefield, he's like, "Hey, I know this is all fun and games, but it's not games anymore. I need you to let me out now." Cuz he's like trapped within this thing.
Yeah, that weird barrier thing. Was it not applied by the enemy though?
There was there were two layers to it.
Uh,
The first level is applied by the game master because they were playing
mm,
like a weird game beforehand. And then once Veto shows up and like Yami's like, okay, I actually need to get the fuck out of this bitch. and Gramps is like, I literally can't let you out. So Yami like uses lightless slash to like break the building, and then there's another layer by the enemy.
I see. All right, and then I believe we go into Magna and Lightning Kid.
Yeah, Magna and Luck. So they get like it was really bad. They're like
To get
Vetto just kind of flexes on them. He like somebody like uses a spell against him, some random fodder that he like almost took out in one shot. And they're
Mhm.
like Magna and Vetto or Magna and Luck are like really impressed by this guy's magic. And Vetto's like, "Oh, that was a good spell. Let me salute you." But he literally tanked it, and then he one shots this guy.
Mhm.
And
Um,
so then Magna and Luck try to go after him in the opening, and he takes them both on, and almost one taps them too. And then after we see Yami break out, and Yami's like giving more exposition, like he's like, "Oh my god, this guy's really strong. I don't know if my team can do it." In his head, and then he like tells them to all surpass their limits and take him out. And we have more people being like, "Oh, that's what that massive mana is." But then Magna and Luck get back up again, and they use all their mana and don't even hurt Vetto.
all right.
So we have like consistent statements from like the high offensive mages and the Black Bulls. Statements and feats that he's just like a walking god. And so there's just so
Mhm.
much hype before he ever really takes on anyone notable. And then when he does take on notable people, he just like blitzes and one shots.
I believe after Magna and Luck, it was the sword guy in Asta, right?
Let me take a look. Um,
Should be.
yeah, it's I don't know what his name is, but it's Sword Guy in Asta. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, the
Kaido.
dancer.
Kaito.
Kaido.
Yeah.
Kaido from One Piece. Okay.
It's a T, but it's basically the same name. Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
But then, like, is Magna and Luck like use all their magic? And this goes into another point that I have. They're like, if we let you one shot us, we just wouldn't be like we wouldn't be aimed or we wouldn't be allowed to call ourselves Asta superior. And that goes into like the dichotomy of hope and despair and how it's perfectly played out within this fight.
Mhm.
But I'll go for that point later. That's just really like the beginning of the Vetto fight, and there's just so many consistent statements of
Okay.
hyping up Vetto. And right whenever you think Vetto is about to get like taken out, he just completely and utterly tanks it. And that's before Asta ever arrives.
All right. I suppose the argument I would go for why like the Kid Buu like plays with its the Kid Buu conflict plays with its hope and despair. Like it's a lot more like well executed in comparison because like when you have when you have like the hero like painting out to be like when you have I guess the hero being like hyped up to defeat the villain, like they have a decent amount of time to shine before the villain kind of just one ups them. And
But
once the
yeah,
villain,
so
hmm?
that's in most cases that's true, but in this case, I would argue that Vetto had more time to shine in this arc before
um,
Asta comes and fights him.
okay,
Sorry, I just felt like I needed to say that so like that point didn't go unaddressed, like that premise.
all right. I guess the argument I was trying to go with basically there's a lot more suspense between like I guess the hope and despair switcheroo that was just consistent within the Kid Buu conflict. Like you had like Goku had a decent amount of time to shine before he gets one upped, and then like for like I guess the majority of the fight after you start thinking that Kid Buu's probably just going to continuously take his attacks. Like Goku just gets KO'd, And then when you have then when Goku like comes back, he doesn't really do anything. He just gets KO'd immediately. I guess um you kind of have like this minor what should I call it? Minor fucking
A glimmer of hope, maybe.
no, it was more so in the villain's favor. And articulate like him taking I guess minor problem with him taking Vegeta hostage, which was like solved immediately. So now you're all right. There's really nothing that Kid Buu has to offer that would really put him on par of Goku's about to bomb his ass, like literally just go full ISIS.
Well,
Um,
I would argue that's I would
mhm.
argue that the problem with the Kid Buu fight is that since we've seen that Goku is so strong, and isn't Kid Buu stated to be like weaker than Buhan?
No, like it was like he was narratively implied by the Supreme Kai that he was just basically this better version of him. Like he was
Okay,
basically like Buhan was just a weakened version,
so
and
I would
you even had
argue,
Buhan.
yeah,
Sorry, what?
I would argue that because we have Asta, who's like in no way relative to Vetto, and a Goku who is relative to Kid Buu, that there's more tension there because we literally have no clue about how Asta is gonna win. Like the team is separated, everyone is getting bodied, and then like other members of the team are already out of mana or like asleep in the case of Charmy, who's the strongest Black Bull. Um,
Hmm.
so we didn't know that right then though, but we have like consistency in the fact that oh my gosh, your mic is like walkie-talkie
Ah, shit.
echoing.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So we have consistency in the idea that Vetto is just like leagues above all of the Black Bulls, bar maybe Yami. And then we have like Goku and Vegeta, who at full power together would probably be able to take Kid Buu.
Vegeta got fodderized.
Okay. So then Goku, who at full power is still relative to Kid Buu. So I would just argue that there's more suspense in not knowing how the fuck our main character is gonna beat Vetto than knowing that like, oh, like Goku will pull it out some way, and then there's always the Spirit Bomb. It's like we don't have a way for Asta to even combat Vetto. Like he has his Demon Slayer sword, but Vetto's just stronger and faster, so it doesn't matter.
I think the Kid Buu conflict like plays with its intensity in a polar opposite manner. Like they like when you have like I guess a main character who's pretty much like pretty much for the most part he's fighting on par with him. It creates a stronger sense of tension because you don't know whether or not the heroes is actually going to beat the villain or if the villain's gonna win. But then
Well,
you just have it to where like the hero gets clapped.
yeah, and what I'm saying is, it's
Hmm.
more tense. So you're saying that whenever they're like near the same level, it's really tense because you don't know who's gonna win. I mean, watching fucking
Well, can I just like restate it?
yeah,
Basically, what I'm trying to argue is with like Asta. Um, there's less tension when you know Asta is going to get his ass till they come. Wait, did I
Asta's
just fucking cut off?
yeah, that Asta's gonna get his like ass whooped till other people come in. Is that what you're saying?
Um, no, I had to rejoin, but I didn't hear what you just said. But what I'm trying to argue is that there's less tension when you don't think the main character is going to combat like the villain up until they come up with like a valid method to combat them. Because like with Asta, we didn't think that he was going to win because he was just like completely outmatched by this Vetto character who was hyped to be more powerful than Yami since before they combated each other. But with like Kid Buu, you think Goku has a chance of beating him, but he doesn't beat him, which I think creates a stronger sense of tension.
Okay, so I say we've been on this for like 20 minutes, so I say we leave this up to the judges. This point specifically.
Um, can I just like I guess on the off chance the judges don't like buy my argument, I'm gonna like try to create a parallel between Asta and Vegeta, like how Vegeta he was just gonna get it, like he would just like he tried to combat Kid Buu, but he just gets his shit clapped. And then, like, after being knocked out of Super Saiyan, he tries to combat him in his base form, which is dozens of times weaker than his Super Saiyan 2 forms. Arguably hundreds of times weaker, but that's besides the point. So, like with Vegeta, I would argue he's basically like Asta in that scenario.
I would agree with that assertion, but I'm of the opinion that that makes it more interesting to see how the hero actually comes out on top. Because it's fiction. We know the hero's coming out on top. Like, well, I mean, Asta comes out of this fight quite damaged, but, like, damaged for, like, a longer period of time. Um, but I just stick with the assertion that because we don't know if the hero will win and we know that he's, like, outclassed, that it's more interesting to watch the fight to see what they come up with. I say we just leave that point at that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm one of the judges, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
Right now, I'm buying Geico's more.
Shut your mouth. Let's wait until we finish.
All right. Fuck. You wanted to go into I guess the effect of the fight over I guess the characters on the long term or whatever. I don't recall your exact wording.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do that. So I'll
Alright.
just kind of like list off the effects of the fight and how they affect like later on. Spoiler alert: Asta wins, but also loses. He completely and utterly loses use of his arms. And even in a verse of magic, it's like a curse that somehow is able to affect him. And so, like, for quite a while, he's not able to use his arms, and it directly leads into the entire conflict of the next arc. We see Asta is like this shimming, like, how would you say? This affects Finral in the way that Asta, like, seeing Asta and how hard he works, Finral then goes through a fucking training arc and becomes like unbelievably more powerful. Vanessa sees Asta's dedication and is willing to literally give up not just her life, but literally give up her being. Like, she's willing to become a pawn for her mother, who she escaped from through the help of Yami. She's literally willing to give up everything she is in order to, like, cure Asta's arms. Everyone in the Black Bulls goes, like, looking for Asta's arms. And we see, or, like, a way to cure Asta's arms. Due to this fight, Yami gets more powerful magic and surpasses his limits. I feel that that's about it. That's like a simplified version of it. And, oh no, it furthers Noel's character arc, which in other debates that I've done that I'm sure you've heard of, is like one of the best character arcs in the series.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, please.
Was this Vetto fight, just because I don't know the fight, was this like a life or death, or was this like a
Life or death?
It was literally life
Okay.
or death. Yeah.
Alright, making sure.
He didn't just want to kill them. He wanted to torture them and make them despair to the point where they wished for death.
Yeah. In that sense, Kid Buu's very similar to Vetto, because he did the exact same to fucking Vegeta, despite the fact that he could have one-shotted Vegeta and Hercule right off the bat. Like, he does damage to them, but he's not trying to kill them. Like, he wants them to feel the pain. Because, like,
I mean,
earlier...
we can argue, like, the meta-narrative and the character depth between the antagonists later. But we're just arguing effects based on the fight. Like, how the fight affects the further series.
Well, I guess I'll go into mine. Like, I guess if I were to, like, simplify it, it would be Vegeta accepts his inferiority complex. Like, he accepts Goku being superior in comparison to him. Goku accepts his heritage because, like his reasoning for why he didn't want to, I guess, take the quote-unquote smart route and just beat Kid Buu's Vegito was that, basically Saiyans fight alone. It was more of like, I guess, a Saiyan pride motivation, like that was driving his distaste for fusion this time around, and that's basically Goku accepting his heritage. And then you have Hercule, like this random fuck who previously would cuck down to the villain whenever he got the chance. Like he never really gave a fuck about his position or influence. Like when he, I think I vaguely recall him. Like there was this one scene during Gohan's Seiya Man arc where like Hercule when he's called out by like these I guess criminals who were looking for him in exchange for the hostages that they captured. Hercule just hides in his house, whereas like now he's fully aware of like just how much of a figurehead he is for the Earthlings. And then he takes responsibility and like pushes them to charge his spirit bomb, which plays a massive role in the defeat of Kid Buu.
So I
So
say
like,
we talk about our smarmy weak characters first.
Karma bouncing.
Let's start with like the the effects on Finral versus the effects on Hercule.
okay,
Because
you want to like start?
yeah. So these also go under like Finral hyping up Vetto, but I'm posting some like scans real quick, and it's like during this fight, Finral, like at the beginning of the fight, Finral's like, "Oh fuck no, I'm about to fucking dip." Like Noel puts a hole in the wall, and Finral's like, "Yep, I'm a run through that bitch. They ain't gonna see me again." And we like have consistent like it's consistently in Finral's character to be just like this pushover bitch. Except for like this one time where he stands up to his brother. But that was like really short lived, and he immediately regrets it. He's like, "What the fuck was I saying? What am I doing?"
Oh, he does. That's a shame.
What?
That was during their like tournament arc, right?
No, the tournament arc comes after the Vetto arc. But I'm
Oh,
talking
okay,
about
never
in
mind.
the there's like a scuffle where the Diamond Kingdom tries to attack this one place. Actually,
Yeah, I
that
know what you're
happens.
talking
No, that
about.
happens after this. Actually, because
Okay.
Asta's arms are still fucked up. He actually uses his sword with his mouth in that fight. On some Zoro shit. But it's like Finral's character like turns around just due to Asta's influence there. And it's like this crazy thing. Um it's like it's weird because it's an effect of the fight. He sees Asta like fighting a losing fight and he's like, I can't let this kid show me up. And it's not like that's what he says, but that's not his real motivation. His real motivation is quite ambiguous. He just like kind of walks in and doesn't even know what he's doing. And even Vanessa is like, "Wow, I'm impressed that you like managed like that you actually managed the courage to walk up here." Because it's like Finral's consistently just like a pushover baby bitch. He's literally Yami's errand boy because he's scared of how like strong Yami is. He like teleports
Okay.
Yami to the toilet and shit. And it just like completely changes Finral's character. And from here on, he gets like stronger and stands up to his brother because he like has all this respect for Austin. Is like, if I'm Asta's superior, I literally just can't be like who I am right now. Like I have
All
to
right.
be a stronger, better person to set an example for this kid. Even though he's like setting an example for me.
For who?
Asta sets an example for Finral. Yeah.
Oh, never mind. I thought you said Finn setting in.
No, Finral does like it's implied that Finral's motivation is like setting an example for Asta and vice versa. Asta like sets an example for Finral and just how brave and courageous he is with like no hope. No hopes of winning, yeah.
Okay. I think Hercules like I guess he's in terms of his cowardice, he's pretty much like the original Finral, if you will. Um as I stated before, like during on the Saiyaman arc, he was just a pussy who stayed away from anything that even posed a 1% chance of resulting in his death. And then you have it where he's like fighting Kid Buu, despite the fact that each time Kid Buu is like about to swing, he gets on his knees begging him to not kill him. And then the second he sees that Kid Buu like fails to launch his attack, he goes back to fighting him. And like I guess he goes back and forth up until like Fat Buu is released from Kid Buu, and then Kid Buu just explodes Hercule and he tanks it to the face.
Hercule tanks it.
Yeah, unironically.
Yeah, Hercule
And
Galactic plus durability.
honestly.
Yeah, I gotta take a shit, so
All right, we'll
I'll
just
be
wait
right
for
back.
Rich.
But for right now, I'm just my verdict is going towards Geico.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into my stronger arguments. I'm fine with that.
After
Never
you're
mind, I
like,
don't want to shit. I'll just let you guys do it.
Okay.
okay.
You might want to just like
Um,
mute your mic and go for it, to be honest, because I feel like I haven't gotten into like my two strongest arguments. So,
mhm. uh,
yeah,
so I guess
Finral's
that's
like
like
this very supportive character after this.
supportive of
c-
who?
in what?
Supportive of who?
The
Who's
entire
he
Black
supporting?
Bulls. He literally
Okay.
says, I don't have to become the strongest. I'll make the Black Bulls the strongest squad. Like he doesn't
It's the same with
he
Hercule.
Yeah, yeah. So they both go from this like selfless to like selfish to like selfless character arc. So
Um,
I think that it's just kind of even. Like
yeah, honestly.
so then let's look at
Um,
hmm, for effects of the fight, let's look at our main characters, right?
yeah.
Goku changes his ideology and like he's like, I'm gonna have my Saiyan pride, right? But the difference is that the effect on our main character in Black Clover is quite physical and mental, right? Because
Okay.
all Asta has is his body, really. If his body isn't up to par, he can't really wield his swords effectively, right? And so,
Hmm.
do you remember Asta's basically he says it out loud, but it was a monologue. He didn't know anyone was listening, right? Um do you recall his like monologue after he fights Vetto and he's like crippled?
Do you mean the scene in like where he was just alone during the night, sitting on a
Yeah.
rock?
Yeah, and he's like
I
screaming in the air at fate.
I think he's like something about him like not giving up.
Yeah, my magic is never giving up.
I see.
And it's like we just have these like consistent things for like Asta's like shook after this. First of all, Asta like pities Vetto from here on. He even goes
Oh.
like to he does. He goes to Vetto's grave and he places flowers and he's talking to Yami and he's like, I think Vetto was the one who despaired the most of all. And it's like he personally knows how despair feels. And that's why that I guess that's more like bordering on my meta narrative point, but it's like Asta's like consistently um like if fighting Vetto is literally fighting his inner demon of despair.
Um. Well, let me just say this. I agree with like the physical, I guess, effects that he's had on Austin. Hold on, I gotta.
Oh, not to mention, I just thought of this. Um Asta's like ideology changes from here on and he like wants to understand the elves.
How's that like? All right.
Cuz
What was
at
his
first,
ideology previously?
yeah, he didn't really care previously about who he was fighting. He's like, I have to do this. I have to do this to like be the Wizard King. But
Hmm.
then after he hears like what Vetto has to say, and like he knows how Vetto feels about despair, he's like, wow. Like he consistently says throughout the Elf arc things like, I want to come to an understanding with you. He even says it to Licht. And it halfway through the Vetto fight, he's like, I don't think we can come to an understanding, or I don't think we could ever be friends, but I'd love to come to an understanding with you. Like Vetto
Okay.
clearly changes Asta's ideology. Um, like it makes him basically form a new ideology that he doesn't just want to like mindlessly fight. He wants to like come
Well,
to an understanding with those against him so he can have peace.
wasn't he trying to negotiate with like the zombie guy?
Are you talking
Um,
about like in the elf arc? 'Cause
no,
I don't remember
it
him
was
ever trying to negotiate with Rades in the original arc that he appeared in.
fuck. Um, let's see. What was the previous arc to the Vetto fight? It was with
It was the Gauche arc.
okay, and the
Gauche's
one
little
before that.
sister. Um, that was the Rades arc, I believe.
Okay.
Let me look at like the volumes. That'll basically tell me what fucking arc it is, to be honest. So we have Vetto. Um, what the fuck is this arc? We have basically just them leading up to going down to the sea palace. We have the fucking cave abducting children arc. We have the Rades arc, and then there's the Mars arc. And before that is just the whole dungeon shit leading up to like the fight with Mars. And before that's
All
just the
right.
beginning of the series.
Then never mind. I obviously don't remember it very well, so I won't make the claim.
Some of the Black
Um,
Clover arcs are kind of like you think that they're in different places.
yeah.
Like I remember all the Witch Queen shit happening before the Ladros arc, but it
The
didn't.
Witch now?
Yeah, the Witch Queen. I remember that happening like before they fought Fauna and Ladros. But it's just because
Oh.
they're like back to back. Um,
Okay, so the point that I was trying to get across, before we like got into this was, like, I guess outside of that ideological, I guess, effect that it's had on Asta, like, what other mental, I guess, change has Vetto's fight had on the Black Bulls,
Asta
or at least
feels
Asta?
Asta feels despair for the first time in a long time.
I recall him stating like after like
No,
every time Vetto.
even though he doesn't say it, he's like he then goes on to give himself a pep talk afterwards about like his arms and shit. And it's very obvious that it's like having psychological effects on him.
Okay.
Or mental effects, I should say. Maybe not psychological. It's not like he goes crazy. He just like
Mhm.
he like really has to hype himself up afterwards because it's like he's like having a hard time coping with the idea of never being able to use his arms again. When that's like,
Doesn't he always do that?
hmm?
Doesn't he always like pep himself up?
Yeah, whenever he's like losing or he feels that he can't win, he peps himself up and by proxy peps everybody else up.
Okay.
He basically uses talk no jutsu to give himself more stamina.
All right. Where was I? About Kid Buu. Let me check my notes. Hmm. I guess there's not much for me to go over aside from what I've already argued. I think you were supposed to like argue something, but I forgot what it was. But you wanted to like leave it for after we finish Hercule and
Oh, the meta
Kid-
narrative. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. So the meta narrative of Asta and Vetto is so gorgeous. Oh my god.
Do you recall the argument I was making down? Or
I have no idea.
fuck, damn.
So
Um,
so you know how it like did you ever watch Plague of Gripes Naruto video? The one that Clyde responded to?
yeah.
So, you know how Plague of Gripes calls like everyone a Naruto? He's like Dry is a Naruto, Iruka's a Naruto, Gaara's a Naruto. They're all like foils to Naruto.
Hmm.
So, Vetto is like the foil to Asta, and it's just done so extremely well. And I'll explain as to why, right? So, Vetto, like, he himself was originally in like deep despair about what happened to the elves. but Licht like saves him from this despair, and from then he becomes like a weird masochist or sadist. Um, and it's like that's okay, I guess, but the fact that like Asta constantly fights with the idea of despair with that throughout the series, like when he can't win, he just like starts to like he starts to get down. We see this from like chapter fucking 2. Yeah, it's chapter 2. And so then it's like it's literally like not only does Asta have an inner demon, like a literal demon, but he's fighting Vetto, who is his inner demon, like mentally, because he's fighting the despair that he's always had. And we can see that like Asta still does care about not having mana even after this arc, because Ladros is like, yeah, if I could give you some mana, I would. And then Asta's like, could you please? Like
Rip.
yeah, and so it's like Asta always has
I guess a
so
demon to fight, or that he's constantly fighting his demon.
yeah, Asta's just like constantly fighting this demon mentally, but then not only is it's basically like Vetto is not only the not the concept, but the embodiment of his despair, but it allows him to physically fight his despair, and that's why Asta like refuses to give up. So not only is it like a physical battle that Asta is losing until he doesn't lose, but it's also like this psychological battle. And so I just think that's way better than the narrative of Kid Buu, like because it's so personalized to Asta. I think it's much better than the narrative of Kid Buu being like the embodiment of all evil, because it's like Goku isn't evil, nor does he usually do evil things, but this like the idea of despair and like despair as a feeling is constantly with inside Asta. And so I just think the meta narrative is just way better.
Okay. I guess for, I mean, I guess I've kind of like already made my meta narrative argument of the influence that it's had on characters like Vegeta, Goku, and Hercule. It's
Well, I
like,
mean,
well,
the idea of meta narrative is like ideas that are or battles that are greater than the battle
the
taking
fight.
place. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, I guess for Vegeta that would be like him comparing himself to Goku, which is resolved within Boo fight. And then like Goku always trying to I guess reject his Saiyan heritage, and then him accepting his heritage.
yeah, and
And then
I would still say that seeing as those are just like moral conflicts, and this is the meta narrative of the fight, that this would just way above all of those ideas.
hmm, how do you how do you draw like the line between meta narrative and morals?
So like moral change and like philosophical shift are like so if Asta like Asta growing to like want to understand the third eye of the midnight sun, right? That's like a psychological shift, while him fighting like while his fighting or like man versus beast is like a meta narrative, but
Hmm.
um man turning into beast is not a meta, or it can be, but like man turning into beast or like psychologically breaking down could also be a meta narrative, but it's usually just a psychological shift. Not even to mention the like meta narrative of man versus beast that happens within Asta versus Vetto,
Hmm.
because then it becomes Asta's demon. It becomes demon versus beast. It like shifts. And I think this is excellently executed and like analogized by the fact that the art style shifts within the fight. I'm not talking about like the animation, because we didn't go for that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying like the animation is better by any means. I don't think it is. But what I'm saying is whenever it like whenever it
Whenever.
breaks down and turns into fucking like I think it's more so Asta going down to like his deepest components whenever it turns into sketches in the fight. I can show that if you need.
Yeah, sure.
It happens in the anime
Scott.
and the manga, but I'll just show the manga.
Damn. Aster's getting an art amp. I see. I got a shower. Demiurge will now judge in my place. Damn. It's really sad to get
Wait,
hours.
who said they would? Who said Demiurge would judge in
Eldritch.
their place? Eldritch.
Eldritch.
Demiurge is already judging.
Yeah, you fucking.
Snooty will judge my place.
I've been here
Alright.
the whole
Amina?
time.
Snooty, take
Alright,
notes in his
Snooty.
place. Or kitchen.
Eldritch, if you've been taking notes, can you like DM Snooty?
I have not.
I've been taking notes. Pretty much Demi and Eldritch haven't. I guess I'll go first so I can like go over the notes to
Alright.
like refresh them.
I'm trying to find like the exact moment when the art style changes because I know it happens in the manga. If it doesn't happen in the manga, I'll just use the anime.
Okay. So A class debater, Kage level, and Tokubetsu D class.
BT Dubs kitchen, you can take my place because like I had to dip out a couple times during this debate, so
Okay.
I don't really.
So kitchen
Alright,
takes his
Kitchen.
place. Yeah.
You're to sacrifice this time around. The Demon King's gonna judge the debate.
I was here.
Oh yeah, we also have a Poyo.
Yeah. Does it not happen in the? Okay, it doesn't happen in the manga. So I'll send you the anime.
Oh.
Please start arguing canonicity. Oh my gosh.
Wait. So why is this relevant? Like the manga? Like that's like because you're like your whole argument is like, well, I guess the art style changed alongside of the psychological changes Asta had, I believe.
Yeah, it's analogous, right? So it's just there to extra prove the point. It's not like I need it for this argument. It's just that it's a very interesting moment, and I think it puts it above Kid Buu versus Goku.
Why is it? Well, why isn't it present within the manga?
Because
Like-
it's probably, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think I specified which version of the fight.
Yeah, I know.
The link is in Scans chat. I've time stamped it.
Uh,
And Asta says, something along the lines of, "You've lost. Someday I will write the next page."
I will write the
Are
next
my
page.
hope.
What does that even?
I have like, he's talking about like the next page of his own story.
Like the manga?
Maybe it's just fictional awareness.
Hmm. I burst out running. Someday I will write the next page you've lost. You are my hope. Wait, so who's making the statements? Like, is that Asta talking to himself?
I think someone else says "You're my hope." I'd have to turn the volume on for that. And I'm like recording right now, so I'd like to not do that.
Okay. Alright, sure. So like which points do you want to go over next?
I think the meta narrative argument, like, does that stand? I think it really does.
I mean, I suppose I don't really have like
Oh,
a graph.
it's because this one's cut. God. It doesn't matter. Oh, Asta says you haven't won against anyone. No one has despaired. As he's like pulling up.
I guess that defeats the whole him despairing from like his fight of Vetto,
no,
doesn't it?
It's still just him hyping himself up.
Okay, then why
And
would you bring
then-
that up?
And then what's great is there's a shift of Vetto, because as Asta's demon starts showing, Vetto then starts to despair, or maybe not despair, but lose hope. It depends on what your definition of despair is.
I guess he would be despairing because doesn't he say like he has no hope or that his hope is taken away from him?
It says that the demon inside Asta devours even despair.
Devours even despair. Okay. Then yeah, I
Oh no,
guess.
the exact translation is despair. You've lost. Yeah. So it's like it's literally Asta battling despair at its most base roots at the end of the fight.
All right. Sure. Let's just, like, I guess, go on to the next point if you want.
Um,
Whatever that is.
fuck, I had some points written down. Um, maybe Asta's. No, I kind of touched on Asta's paradoxical identity within the series. Like how he's the like. Oh, maybe how Asta's the star of hope.
Star of Hope. I mean, isn't
And
that
yeah,
like tied to the whole despair versus hope meta narrative that you're arguing?
yeah. I just wanted to like throw out some scans because I have a lot of them for
Okay.
Asta being like the star of hope. It's like for his entire team, Asta is the reason that they continue to fight. And he's literally he just refuses to give up no matter what. I think I stopped getting all of the hope scans like 4 chapters into the fight. It's like just consistently he is their star of hope, and it just like ties more heavily into the meta narrative of hope versus despair.
Okay. So
I feel like you didn't have really an answer for the meta narrative of man versus beast, but I feel like that was a weaker meta narrative, anyways.
so are you gonna like? Do you want to? All right. So I guess for if you want to like if I were to refute your first meta narrative argument concerning man versus beast, it would be I guess it would be man versus nature, nature of destruction or whatever. And I guess Kid Buu would be like the literal
So
representation of evil and
so I
destruction.
agree. I agree that Kid Buu is like the representation of destruction in the series.
Okay.
But I already made an argument as to why I think that meta narrative is weaker than the meta narrative of hope versus despair because it's so personalized to Asta.
Hmm.
And the fact that there's 2 meta narratives within the same fight just shows how narratively sound this fight really is.
Like when you say personalized, what do you mean? I
Because
guess like the
Asta,
damage.
because despair is his internal demon, and Asta literally fights it here. Here's the
Okay.
scan where he says, and it's funny because there's a paradoxical identity within Vetto too. Because even after like fighting, uh, fucking Vetto, Asta comes to his grave and is like, I thought maybe this guy was the one who actually despaired the most. So even though he was the embodiment of despair, even
Well,
he had tons of despair within his heart.
I mean, wouldn't you kind of like just assume that, given that he's the quote unquote representation of despair in this
Well, I mean,
meta?
you could, but most people who he's the representation of despair because he causes it so much, not because he has so much despair within his heart.
Okay, sure, I can agree to that. So, did you want to like bring up another point outside of like the meta narrative, or
Yeah, I think we should end the meta narrative arguments here. I think I won up
okay,
front pretty wholly.
sure,
Um, let's go into. I think we went over impact on the series.
yeah. I guess what do you consider like the impact? Yeah, impact, tension, hype, blah blah blah.
Um, I think how it. I want to argue how it affects the following arcs, but you don't have following arcs, so I don't feel like that's fair.
Um,
Unless you want to use like
you already
super
you already
arcs.
kind of did. You already kind of did of like Asta about how like he had to like he suffered physically and psychologically from his fight of Veta. And then you have like Finral later on goes to confront his brother.
Um,
So you've kind of already like
I
made
guess
those
I can
arguments.
argue that it introduces us to the idea of the midnight sun,
Um,
being the embodiment of like certain feelings.
I believe that's been present since their first introduction.
With who licked, it
Like
wasn't
yeah,
really all that. They don't really
not with
talk. They don't really talk all that much when they first fight.
they don't introduce themselves like
No, they
what they were.
introduce themselves as like Fauna the Hateful and things, but it doesn't really like get into it until after Vetto's been, or until after Vetto is like wholly introduced.
Okay, so I guess it's fleshed out in the Vetto Fight.
Yeah, it really
Okay,
fleshes out them as like embodiments of concepts, with the outlier of Ryer. Um, but I guess I'm not really claiming him. I think Vetto was like it leads into the idea of Fauna the Hateful being the one who really just loved the most. And her
hmm
hate is like just her being torn from her love of her life. Um, it foreshadows the idea of Charmy being like massively powerful. If you want to use that,
Well, I mean, sure, I guess.
I'm trying to think of other arguments.
Honestly, I don't really have any more points to bring up. I think we've pretty much like analyzed it thoroughly.
It foreshadows Langris, which is a
Um,
really he's a very interesting antagonist. Um,
Um, not to interrupt your debate, but weren't you guys either going to talk about choreography or animation or something?
no, we
no,
said we
we
weren't going to.
excluded those exact topics.
Um,
Oh, okay.
I guess the Kid Buu fight. Oh wait, no, never mind. No, I was gonna say foreshadowed beers, but not really.
With the title of God of Destruction.
No, it's like it's the Supreme Kai when he's released is
Oh,
like he talked about beers, but that was before Kid Buu.
I thought that was retconned because they said that it was Boo who did it. I may be wrong.
Um,
Do you want to
I
go to like
don't.
closing statements?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to go
Uh,
first, or should I?
I'll go first. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just mute
So
myself.
yeah, so I made it very clear on why the meta narrative of Vetto versus the Black Bulls, both meta narratives I should say, are just or the meta narrative argument in general. I just won that. The meta narrative of Man versus Beast was much weaker, um, possibly than the meta narrative of like Hope versus Despair, on the object of Kid Buu versus Goku, but Vetto versus Asta in the Black Bulls has just a better Hope versus Despair meta narrative. Um, due to the fact that it's so personalized. I think Geico didn't even qualify that meta narrative in Dragon Ball as Hope versus Despair. Um, I think I thoroughly won, or I think it was like a tie with me edging out on effects to characters. I was able to pretty much counter every effect to character. But then on the main character, I think I more effectively was able to state my point and make sure that it was very clear that Asta was more affected by his fight with Vetto than Goku was by his fight with Kid Buu, both psychologically or both philosophically, and the fact that there was added physical components to his damage. Right. I think I went on about how it directly leads into the next arc and gives in how Asta's like the star of hope and how that kind of starts within this arc for most of the Black Bulls. I think with all the side characters it was kind of a tie, so I think I won the I think I won that point. I think the only point that Geico won is hype and tension maybe, but even then I would argue it's still a tie, but since some judges have said that it's in Geico's favor, you can rule that. But I still think I won two greater arguments out of the three arguments in general, so I don't think there's any reason to vote Geico above me, unless you think hype and tension are more impactful than the meta narrative itself.
Okay. All right. So I agree, Spencer. Like in regards to character influence, we kind of like stalemated in that regard. When we got into like the meta narrative, like I kind of countered his man versus monster thing with like man versus nature. But I didn't really like have a counter for his personalized meta narrative concerning how despair and hope is so strongly tied to the MC and like the side characters, etc., etc. When we got into like hype and like intensity of the literal fight, I pretty confident I pretty much won that. Like I think I articulated well enough how like a character or at least like two characters fighting on par of each other is a lot more intense in comparison to, let's say, like the MC getting his shit bashed in until like they come up with a valid way to counter the villain. Because like with the main character being on par of the villain, you don't really know who's going to come out on top. Whereas with like as Spencer's claim, or at least try implied, like we know that the heroes is obviously going to win. So I don't really see the tension in them getting their shit clapped when we know they're going to win regardless. Which is why I think the hero like being on par of the villain is a lot more tense in that regard. To which on me being like I guess vigilant or not vigilant might not be the right word, but on the off chance that the judges thought I'd lost that, I gave the example of like Vegeta. Like he was basically the parallel to the characters getting their shit stomped by Vetto. Um so far it's like it's pretty much we have one point where we tied, one point where I've pretty much conceded, one point where I probably beat him. And but the reason why I think like tension and hype for a fight is so much more better than in comparison to like meta narrative is I guess it's like well no never mind, that would be a new point. I can't really argue that. Never mind. I guess that's basically like my conclusion.
I think I'm gonna cut the recording off there. I want everyone in the audience to decide who won. I think I'll post who actually won in like a comment. So bye bye.